Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And today I have a first impressions video, not on this knife, but I have this here by way of introduction because this is a wildly popular model for Civivi. This is the Elementum. It initially came out, I think, like 3 years ago in, a 3-inch blade, sort of 7-inch knife. Very similar to this shape, sort of drop point, hollow grind, very, very kind of clean, standard looking knife. And I reviewed one back then and I really liked it. I think it's a very compelling design, and clearly I was not the only one. The Elementum has been a very, very popular model for Civivi, which is why this exists, as well as the more bushcraft oriented version of this. I have both, I just don't happen to have both here. But this is not what we're talking about today. We are talking about the latest iteration of the Elementum, and that is this knife right here. Now, this is one of, I guess, the latest iterations of the Elementum. This is the Damascus Shred Carbon Fiber Button Lock. And I have to say, now that you've kind of seen the knife, you've seen how it works, I did want to give you a nice close-up of that blade. This is some of the nicer Damascus that I have seen from Civivi. One of the complaints I would offer is that I don't always love their Damascus, but this is actually pretty compelling. And this shred carbon fiber is kind of nice as well. It's sort of a larger pattern, and I think it looks really, really cool. So quick rundown on this extremely popular version of an extremely popular knife. These are sold out most places. I think Justin over at White Mountain Knives may have a couple of these Damascus versions left. So let's do a quick rundown on the features. We've kind of already gone over that. The big story, of course, is being the button lock, but 9 Sierra Damascus up front here, and it does have a black wash on it, which I don't like as much, but it's still attractive. Then we've got a shred carbon fiber scale over heavily milled out stainless steel liners, and then a button lock. And if you look at Civivi's button lock, it's very much like a compression lock. Okay, obviously it's reversed. But as I push the compression lock over, you can see, and here I'm pushing a liner lock, which is, hold on, there we go, over here. You can see the button there pop into place, and it's attached to a liner spring there. So as I push it down, it kind of releases. So a little bit of a different mechanism than what we normally see on button locks. I'll have more to say about that, but I will, my initial reaction is very good. One of the things that I often find, especially on more budget-friendly button locks, is they tend to have blade play. Even some of the nicer button locks I've had have had blade play. Hogue tends to be the one that never has an issue. Virtually everyone else struggles a little bit with their button locks. This knife is obviously also available in a more plain versions. I think there's a micarta version, a G10 version with satin, satin, maybe bead blasted blade here. Very quickly to finish off what we're talking about, we've got a G10 backspacer with an integrated lanyard and a deep carry bent over clip with nice flush fitting screws, which is reversible. So attractive looking knife as far as I'm concerned. I do like, I've had this discussion before, but I tend to like these fancy Civivis because of the fact that the knives, let's see, how do I put this? Civivi knives, I don't feel like I have to worry about all that much. If this was like a super high-end, like gold class Benchmade or something, you wouldn't want to carry it and use it. Where this, although it is dressed up, it's kind of fancy, the price point isn't so crazy that it's a deterrent to using the knife as a typical EDC knife. And I will say this, from that perspective, this is a pretty nicely done EDC knife. Now, a couple things about how the button lock works. It is a lock. It locks closed as well. So I can't just open this knife. And that's what means that in a lot of places, including Canada, this is not a prohibited weapon, because I can't I can't whip this out in any way. Like, the knife is closed shut. You could almost argue this is a two-handed opening knife. You must release the blade, then you can open it. And so really it's sort of a compression-ish type lock. You can get it to deploy under certain circumstances. It takes a little getting used to. But as I read the Criminal Code of Canada, there's nothing about this knife that makes it meet the definition of a prohibited weapon, because the button doesn't deploy the blade. The button is the lock mechanism. So everything in the criminal code means that if you push this button and the blade shoots out, or if you can whip it out like a balisong, then those things are problematic. But in this case, neither of those is true. All right. And yeah, I'm overstating the opening there a little bit on purpose. The next thing that I want to touch on here is the size and weight, because I do love the size and weight on this knife. It is 8 inches overall, 3.5 inches on the blade, 4.5 inches closed. So a really, really great size for EDC. 3 5/8 inch grip area, which means it's pretty comfortable in my hand. It is a little smaller than the fixed blade, okay? Just to kind of give you that. I know I talked to a couple people in the past, and they said, oh yeah, I think the button lock will be around the same size as the fixed blade. And it's kind of around the same size, but it is significantly smaller. This is 8.5 and this is 8. Okay. The other specification that's of interest is probably the weight, and this weighs in at 3.2 ounces, which to me is a pretty comfortable, pretty carryable type of weight. The last thing that I want to sort of weigh in on here are just my initial thoughts. What do I think of this knife? Do I think it's a win for Civivi? Do I think they could have done something better? Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I don't love this opening mechanism, actually. Every time I pick up the knife, I feel myself looking for the way to open this knife, and I actually end up often grabbing it with my other hand, because my brain kind of goes into a frozen mode and can't, like, okay, what do I do now? There's no flipper, there's no thumb stud, and if I push this, often too, if you push it, it doesn't always work. All right, depending on how hard you push it. So that's my first impression on the locking mechanism is it's a cool, interesting locking mechanism. I don't know if I love it. It's okay, but it's not my absolute favorite mechanism for sure. I still think this is a great knife. I don't think it detracts from the knife in any way. It's still cool. I'm still going to spend a little bit of time with it, and I do think it's a pretty easy-able, pretty useful knife. Especially, I think the regular version has 14C28N steel, which would be fantastic. 9CR18 is pretty good steel as well. So I'm not complaining about that. The one thing I will say, Civivi, if you ever watch this video, I don't mind the blackened Damascus, but it would be nice to see some just regular polished, shiny Damascus. Anyway, I mean, obviously we still want to have it etched, but to have just no blackwash on it. So anyway, back to my main discussion here. First impression, yeah, this is a really nice, cool, interesting EDC knife. I'm pretty happy with it. I was certainly curious about it at the very least, and I wanted to satisfy that curiosity. But now that I've got it in hand, I think it would also be a useful cutting tool, and it is a nice looking design, if perhaps a little overdone by Civivi at this point. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will talk to you soon.